You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Weston Williams, joined by Oliver Camacho. All right, this week, continuing with the OBS playbook for the upcoming summer opera season, this time the team picks the most anticipated performances in the Western European League. And then soprano, stage director, and Opera Theater of St. Louis artistic director Patricia Racette returns to take a free throw on performing MT at OTSL. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, Lakmé gets canceled, and the Met gets a visit from Typhoid Mimi. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Click follow on Apple Podcasts. Hit the plus sign. You can also stream episodes of OBS every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central at amplisoundsradio.com. Email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag at operaboxscore.com or upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you'll get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger just for sharing your own hot take. Oliver Camacho, how's it going with you?
It's going okay, but we're going to get right down to business because I want to have dinner.
You know what? This is a gift. No tennis at all. Wow.
Well,
you
Carlos
spoil
is
me.
injured, so you know that I'm not really watching it right now, which is saving me. I'm actually getting to sleep, so.
This might help me sleep as well. Let's talk some opera.
Chalk Talk on Opera Box Score.
We're going to refer you all to an episode we did almost exactly a year ago called The Sweet 16 of Summer Festivals. That published, I think, in May 17th of 2025. If you are subscribed to the pod, which you should be, you could just scroll back in your feed, about 50 episodes, and you'll see it, where we did our bracket of 16 summer festivals, including the US, the UK, and France, and Germany, and Austria are all contenders there. And you can hear more about those festivals in that episode. We should devote a lot of time to those festivals and what they offer. Today, we're going to just handicap some of our favorite performances that are coming up. And I'm going to start by talking about the Salzburg Festival, which I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed in what is happening there this year. There's really not that much that I would really want to see, as opposed to last year when it seems like Salzburg was going to win the entire bracket because of what they had.
It was
on tap.
tailor-made for you specifically.
Yeah. This year, I'm going to point out that they're doing Il Viaggio, the Rossini, which stars Cecilia Bartoli. And I think we don't have Cecilia Bartoli as a, main player on the stage for much longer. I think that she's probably nearing the end of her career. So I would love to hear her sing Rossini, which is her signature repertoire. I'll also point out that they're doing Carmen, and I forget why I wanted to mention that. Oh, Asmik Grigorian is singing Carmen, which is, she's a great actress, but I'm not sure if that's the voice I want to hear singing that role, but I'm sure she's going to tear it up. And Jonathan Tettleman will be singing Don José, and that is conducted by Theodor Kurentzis, the,
Hashtag canceled.
Yeah. A questionable choice of Theodor Kurentzis.
Interesting choice.
And then another interesting casting decision, they're doing Ariadne of Naxos, and it has Elena Garancha as Ariadne.
That's a fascinating choice.
I know. She's sung Kundry. So I think, I don't know. What I'm getting at is that we talk about Strauss heroines as having this really big task to sing over major orchestras and these really long lines, stuff like that. And mezzos shouldn't be able to do it. That said, Christa Ludwig famously sang Fidelio, sang Leonora, which is not Strauss, but, it's in the mold of that type of singing. So, I guess I haven't been paying attention to Elena Garancha. She's, doing the Shirley Verrett thing or the the Zwischen, it's a real Zwischenfach there, all the way up to Strauss soprano. Maybe it's because Ariadne of Naxos is actually not as heavily orchestrated as, let's say, like Four Last Songs or as, Salome,
it is a thinner orchestration, and certainly she has the, acting chops for it.
Yeah.
I think no debate there. I'm always excited when she does something because she always comes a little bit out of left field for me.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Kate Lindsay sings the composer in that production. Friend of the show, Benjamin Bernheim sings Werther opposite Adele Charvet as Charlotte. And finally, to round out the what's happening in Salzburg, they're doing the Messiaen Saint Francis d'Assoise or d'Assisi, which is an opera that you guys talked about when I wasn't home. You and Matt,
you hid from the modernism. No,
yeah.
that's a great opera. That's one that I would scrounge up the pennies and nickels to go see for sure.
I wonder if they knew that José Van Damme was dying when they couldn't have known.
They couldn't have known at that point.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a piece you have to prepare for a very long period of time. So I think it's just coincidental, but certainly it'll be interesting. I have a festival I would like to talk about. You, of course, went in the Salzburg direction, and I run to Munich, as I often do.
I want to see the 400 Little Mozarts. That's why.
Honestly, I get it. The Munich Opera Festival is essentially the Bavarian State Opera's sort of summer season. So it's going to be absolutely packed. It's almost hard to recommend stuff from it because there is simply so much going on. I'll do a quick rundown of the stuff I don't want to do a super deep dive on. They're doing Turandot, Macbeth, Norma, Cenerentola, Fidelio, Rusalka, Faust, Freischütz, Rigoletto. We've got Asmik Gregorian, Diana Damrau, Jonas Kaufmann, and Recital. They're doing a couple of ballets. If you're a big ballet person, they're doing, I think, a world premiere of like a John Neumeier ballet. Absolutely ridiculous variety. There's something for everybody, including me. And the stuff for me is as follows. If I had to pick my top two, and I do, Oliver told me I had to, I'm going to go with Die Walküre, which features Joachim Beckstrom as Siegmund, Irene Roberts as Sieglinde, Ein Anger as Hunding, and the incredible Nicholas Brownlee as Wotan, who we just saw in Chicago as Yohanan, Katerina Gubanova as Fricka, Mina Lisa Verella as Brunhilde. I don't know her, but I've heard good things about her. That's going to be a production June 25th to July 8th. And just for my Baroque fans out there, my other recommendation from the Munich Opera Festival is one of Handel's 5 or so operas, Alcina, starring the Janine de Beek as Alcina. Hell yeah.
Nice.
John Holliday is going to be Ruggiero, Jessica Niles as Morgana, Avery Amaro as Bradamante, Karine Tinney as Oberto, one for you, Oliver, Julien Pregardien as Oronte, Garrett Ehlenberger as Melisso. I mean, that's a killer cast, and I would go see that one too. That's going to be July 13th through 28th. I'm actually a big fan of Alcina. I know that true Handelians are like, it's he was still developing, but there's something about it. It really hits where I want Baroque opera to be. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of an overview of what I want to see at the Munich Opera Festival. But seriously, you can't go wrong if you're able to make it. There is so much. I didn't even mention everything. I mean, it's essentially the Bavarian State Opera. So what more could you want?
Well, my festival that I would, if I could only choose one, would be Glyndebourne. I know that I have a crush on English things and that I imagine myself to be in a different class than I really am. But it seems like they created a season that was meant just for me. There are six productions beginning May 21st and running through the end of August. Can you guess which opera I don't really need to see of these 6? Rossini's Il Turco in Italia, Monteverdi's L'Orfeo, Britain's Billy Budd, Richard Strauss's Ariadne of Naxos, Mozart's The Abduction from the Seraglio, and Puccini's Tosca. So, The Abduction stars friend of the show Anthony Leon as Belmonte and friend of the show Lee Redpath as Constanza, one of the hardest roles in the canon of opera for a soprano of that ilk. A friend of the show Elena Villalon stars in Il Turco in Italia. And finally, Ariadne Naxos stars friend of the show Rachel Willis Sorensen as Ariadne, a more conventional casting there. And Samantha Hankey, friend of the show, as the composer. So I would see all of those shows, and I would even suffer through the sixth one because it sounds like a fantastic season over there on the grass with everybody wearing their linen and seersucker and drinking Pim's cups and looking down on the working class.
There is a certain vibe with Glyndebourne that I do enjoy. But for me, it's all about the weird shit.
Ooh, you have to bleep yourself, yeah.
I got really sassy there. I got to rein myself in. I'm excited. If I could be anywhere this July, it would be at Aix-en-Provence this year. I mean, there's a reason it's the powerhouse of the summer festival circuit, despite having a lot of just concert performances this year. They're doing La Vespre Sicilienne in concert. Bluebeard's Castle is also a concert version, which is a little unfortunate. I mean, I really like Bluebeard's Castle, so I'm just glad to hear it, but I would have preferred something fully staged. But I have three other highlights I want to talk about for Aix-en-Provence. I'll try to blow through them relatively quickly so I don't get, too excited and have to curse again. We've got Frau Neuschattel, which if you've been listening since around 2021, you know why I'm recommending it. It's Strauss's best opera, musically speaking, objectively, and we lay out our arguments and why in previous episodes. We're going to have the CSO music director, actually, Klaus Mekela, will be conducting Frau Neuschattel, which is really in his wheelhouse, at least orchestrally, although I haven't heard him conduct anything with words just yet. A new production by Barry Kosky, which will be interesting. I think the big sort of highlight is that we've got Michael Spires as the Emperor, sort of continuing his sort of Wagnerian German trajectory that he's been on with the Metz Tristan and Isolde and stuff like that. I'm less familiar with the Empress, Vida Miknevičiūtė.
Vida Miknevičiūtė, she's incredible. She was the Sieglinde in Die Walküre at Santa Fe last year. She stole the show. Incredible.
In terms of names I can pronounce and do know, Nina Stemme is the nurse. Brian Mulligan will be Barak, who will be pretty good there. We've also got a friend of the show, Tamara Wilson, as Barak's wife. Pretty stacked cast, great opera, of course. I also am always looking at whatever Aix-en-Provence's new opera selection is every year. The new one is Accabadora, which is a world premiere I know nothing about, other than it's based on an Italian novel that won a bunch of awards and sounds very depressing. It's by the composer Francesco Filidei, who I'm not super familiar with, but I did kind of search around when I was looking up the information, and I've heard just enough to be excited for this one. It also is an opera that stars a contralto in the year of our Lord 2026. It's going to be Noah Franke is the name of the contralto. I mean, we really need more deep voice representation, both on this podcast and in the opera world more generally. Finally, though, the one that really has me considering whether I had the financial resources to fly to France immediately is Hans Werner Henze's Il Cimarron, which is a piece I absolutely love. It's if you don't know it, it's a monodrama about a runaway enslaved person, Esteban Montejo, who was a real person in Cuba in the late 19th century. It's a very sort of stream of consciousness, extended technique, experimental 60s thing from the sort of heyday of Hans Werner Henze's like aggressively leftist and aggressively avant-garde era, which is my favorite Henze era. Lots of extended technique, really hostile sounding sound world to it. Just one singer. It's going to be Eric Green, who I do know a little bit. I've never heard him sing this kind of rep before because he's going to have to do a lot of interesting extended techniques, a lot of falsetto growls, stuff like that. It's going to be really, really cool. I mean, that's what I'm going to Aix-en-Provence for if I have the money, Oliver.
Well, if you are going to be in France, do hop over to the International Baroque Opera Festival in Beaune, which is let's see, from the 3rd to the 26th of July. And I don't think they have anything staged. It's all concerts, just like some of the things you were talking about, but it sounds so incredible. I'm so jealous of what they have on tap. A new program by La Trompette called Bomba Flamenca. The recording of that just came out earlier this month. Check it out. La Trompette, Bomba Flamenca. Les Talents Lyriques will be performing Handel's Ariodante. Vox Luminous will be doing the B minor mass. Friend of the show, Zachary Wad, will be singing a program that he calls Farewell Love. Le Banquet Celeste will perform Handel's Trionfo del Tempo e del Disingano. La Poème Harmonique is doing a program called Lavar. And Nisi Dominus, probably Vivaldi's. L'Olympiade, I forget who wrote that. That's going to be performed by Orchestra Ghisilieri. Concert d'Astre will be doing Stabat Mater. Les Traversées Baroques will perform Monteverdi Vespers. And A Nocte Temporis, Reinhold von Mechelen's group is performing Rameau's Les Bohéades. I'm sure there's more things there, but to pack all of those performances in 3 weeks is incredible. And the other Baroque thing I want to talk about really quickly before we wrap up is the Bayreuth Baroque Opera Festival.
The other Bayreuth.
Yeah, exactly. Which is all the way in September, so we probably will talk about it again. I'm going to try to get Max Senchich on the show to talk more about this festival. But they're doing Handel's Floridante, directed by Max Senchich. And then they have a bunch of concerts. Christophe Dumont, Andreas Scholl, friend of the show, Julie Legeneva, Emeke Borat, friend of the show, Federico Fiorio, Mayan Licht, and Dennis Orellana, the 3 sopranists. Sounds like an amazing time in September. Maybe I'll quit my job by then and I can go check out all these things. But.
If you're listening right now and you're like, man, I sure wish Oliver could go enjoy his Baroque opera and Weston could go enjoy Hans-Werner Henze's El Cimarron, you can donate at our website, operaboxscore.com. And make it happen for us, because we probably won't be able to do it without your help. But however you listen, however you enjoy the opera, make sure you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. When you subscribe, tell a friend all about it. Help us spread the word. Right now, it's a free throw.
Free throw.
As we said last week, Opera Theater St. Louis is presenting Andre Previn's A Streetcar Named Desire, stage directed by Opera Theater St. Louis artistic director Patricia Racette. Also on their season is Romeo and Juliet, The Pirates of Penzance, and A Light in the Piazza. And it would seem that A Light in the Piazza and A Streetcar Named Desire are very far away from each other. So I've invited Patricia Racette to talk about how those two things are related to each other. Before we dive into this free throw, here's a little bit of Andre Previn's A Streetcar Named Desire.
I want that girl down here with me. Stella.
Patricia Racette, welcome back to Opera Box Score. We spoke after you were announced as the artistic director of Opera Theater St. Louis, and now we're on the eve of your first season. I just learned that you haven't started stage rehearsals for Streetcar yet.
No, we start the rehearsals for Streetcar, music rehearsals starting tomorrow morning.
Okay. So I did really catch you on the perfect day.
You did.
Yeah, we were just a minute ago for my formal interview with you for WFMT talking about your approach as a stage director. And I'm thinking about all the videos I've watched of you and the times I've seen you, here in Chicago, just like throw your body around and, be doubled over in pain as, Suor Angelica, or even in the Jake Heggie, I remember that scene like where you're dehydrated and you're driving and like you almost pass out. And like, I honestly felt like I'm going to pass out. I need a sip of water right now. Because you're so in your body when you sing. And I asked you in the nice way, like, are you expecting your singers to do this, to just throw your body around like you did as in the prime of your career? Do you also think about the instrument? And I don't know how you figured it out as a performer, that you can bend your instrument in this way and still make sound. Do you?
Well, I can answer. I can comment on that. For me, this art form is truly the integration of several disciplines. Yes, it's the voice. But it's also the interpretation and the stage deportment, and how those things integrate is what makes an artist. And so, I do not believe that just singing is enough. It is a theatrical art form. We are burdened and blessed with text and situation, and we must be embedded in that and portray that fully. So for me, that was the appeal of this art form. And so, yes, I do have that expectation in the people I cast. And every role is different, but a role like Blanche and like Stanley, it's so visceral. And so I think it has to be siphoned through the given artist's guts and fibers in order to be authentic, believable, and engaging. And so, yes, if that means doubling over or, throwing your body around, I think that is important to portray it as every bit about theater as it is about music. They are not separated. So that's how I lived as an artist, and that's how I, performed, and frankly, that's what drew me to the art form. And so that I do have that expectation. That is my assessment of what this art form is. I would like to see the days gone where it's just, what I call park and bark. That's not enough to just make the sound. It's the totality.
I appreciate that, and I'm with you on that. And I know that you probably, talk to your singers, especially when you were leading the Young Artist program there, in a way that is kind towards your colleagues and your predecessors, because you worked with some of the best. But some of those people were not the best actors, but they gave something else. They like,
right,
let's say a name. Let's say a name, Pavarotti.
Right.
Pavarotti. You cannot not hear the intention in the voice, in the tone, and in the phrasing.
Well,
but what?
I'm still, by the way, running the Young Artist program.
Okay.
It's just
a bigger role now.
it's just yes, it's a busier season. But no, look, I mean, Pavarotti's a legend. And so many, Tibaldi, I believe, wasn't necessarily known for her stagecraft. And I give all due respect to these greats, these legends. But my personal aesthetic, my artistic opinion is I want to see the totality of it. I really do. I want it fully realized in all aspects. Just peeling off the musical vocal aspect has never been enough for me.
I only have 5 minutes left with you because I was just so lucky to catch you in this very busy part of your season. But I do want, for the opera like snobbery, and for the opera like the real core audience, can you just talk about Lakmé Piazza in the season and how you want people who are maybe much more conservative in their operatic tastes, how they should feel about coming to this piece and what they can look for?
Lakmé Piazza is a piece of musical theater that really lends itself to operatic singing, operatic style. It takes finesse. It's a beautiful vocal and musical. The demands are very high for the singers. There's an orchestral complexity and musical depth to the score. There are themes that resonate with opera's core values. It explores big human questions, the tension between reason and feeling, and the limits of control and the transcendent power of love. All the stuff of opera is in this piece. It's for me, doing something like Lakmé Piazza expands the canon. It doesn't exclude it. And I think it's important. And I think the staging and design possibilities are rich and are being beautifully realized in this iteration. And I think it's a bridge to new audiences potential. So as I said earlier, I think it's closer to opera than some might think. It's got a rich harmonic language. It's got cinematic orchestration. It desires a very high level from both the pit and the stage in all respects. And I think it's something that's important to me and for us as a company to embrace are some more of the genres that are adjacent to opera. I mean, we have in our cast, we have a phenomenal cast. We have Paolo Schott, who, a Tony Award winner, who sings a lot of musical theater, but he sings operatically as well. So he does both. We have Kate Baldwin, who lives very much in the musical theater world. And we also have Katrina Gulka, who is very much enjoying an operatic career, who's singing the role of Clara. So the casting in and of itself is a combination of operatic and musical theater. So I'm excited to experience the reaction to this piece.
Yeah, I get why it's there, and I think you can convince people about the technique and the design aspects that really do call upon the best that opera talents can bring to the stage. But there are going to be people who are like, this is music theater, But I do understand that it's 2026, and as opera makers who want to see this industry thrive, we have to start making decisions about how to be inclusive. And this is, I think, one way of being inclusive. Does that feel accurate?
Yes, to you? Yes. And I'm going to continue doing some musical theater, the appropriate musical theater. An idea of cabaret came, and I said that's not for an operatic stage or audience. So it's being mindful of what pieces would make sense.
Would you dare say a couple pieces before we wrap up? That makes sense.
Well, we honestly, you really want to know? We were looking into getting the rights to.
Okay.
I don't know if this is okay to say.
Yeah,
but
if it's not, you can tell me and I'll cut it. So
I'll ask, or we can ask on.
Yeah.
We're looking at things like that.
Okay. Well, as you said, tomorrow everything starts going into the fast bus. So.
The bus has already been fast, I have to say.
But thank you for taking this time to talk to us, and looking forward to seeing you this summer. Nigel Huckle as Fabrizio, singing the quasi-operatic aria Il Mondo Era Vuoto from Adam Guettle's The Light in the Piazza. That was a live performance from Mosaic Theatricals in California. My thanks to Patricia Racette and the PR team at Opera Theater of St. Louis for making Pat available to us. She literally was going into another appointment just as we were wrapping up that conversation. Sorry, it was so short. And Opera Theater of St. Louis's spring/early summer season begins on May 23rd.
That's less than 2 weeks away. And you know what else is less than the 2-minute drill?
This just in, the 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
Bass Pata Bukhulaja has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for protests against the Georgian government last year. Bukhulaja was accused of quote-unquote attempted seizure or blockade of strategic and particularly important facilities, organization and leadership of group violence, and incitement to change the constitutional order of Georgia through violence. The Royal Opera House in London released an open letter calling on the British government to intervene on behalf of the singer.
Audience members that attended a matinee of La Bohème on April 25th at the Metropolitan Opera have received an email warning them of possible measles exposure. One unvaccinated adult attendee tested positive for the disease days after the performance, prompting the New York City Health Department to coordinate with the company to reach out. If you think you or your relatives might have measles, stay home and call your healthcare provider or local health department right away, read the email, which also emphasized the importance of vaccination.
And speaking of things that can be improved through vaccination, English National Opera's ENO Breathe program to combat long COVID symptoms has been proven highly effective according to the Lancet Digital Health Journal. So far, the program has worked with voice specialists and clinicians to improve the breathing of over 4,800 patients. 80% of those studied reported diminished breathlessness, 73% reported reduced anxiety, and 87% said the program had a positive impact on their overall well-being.
A Surrey opera production of Lakmé has been cancelled following a complaint about the offensive portrayal of Hinduism from Rajan Zed, who leads an organization known as the Universal Society of Hinduism. Zed is known for submitting similar complaints to various institutions, both within and outside of the art world, though actual cancellations of projects like this are rare. Surrey Opera will replace Lakmé with Don Pasquale, which opens this August.
Lisbon-based Opera do Castelo has launched the Portuguese Opera Portal, or POP, a database of 160 operas from, guess where? Portugal! POP includes free access to excerpts, full orchestral scores, and piano reductions, as well as plot synopses and historical information about each work. Whenever I wanted to put together a program with Portuguese opera, it was no simple task, said soprano and pop creator Catarina Mulder. Only by contacting conductors or other singers who had previously performed the works could we access the scores. An English version of POP is in the works.
Chicago Opera Theater has announced their 26-27 season. The lineup opens with Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco's The Importance of Being Earnest, an adaptation of the Oscar Wilde comedy, starring friend of the show Vanessa Becerra. In the spring, the company presents The Juniper Tree by Philip Glass and Robert Moran, based on the Brothers Grimm tale, directed by friend of the show Lawrence Edelson and starring friend of the show Janai Brugger.
Santa Fe Opera unveiled its 2027 season, which opens with Turandot, starring Angela Meade and Arturo Chacon Cruz. The Barber of Seville follows under Ivan Lopez Reynoso, who also begins his new role as principal conductor. Cosi fan tutte will feature Samantha Hankey and Manet Goloyan, both friends of the show. Janacek's Katya Kabanova will star friend of the show Eileen Perez in a production led by friend of the show Harry Bickett, who keeps his title as music director through the 2028 season. The company will also present the American premiere of Brett Dean and Heather Betts's Of One Blood.
In major awards news, composer Gabriela Lena Frank won the Pulitzer Prize for her symphonic work, Picaflor, A Future Myth. The piece follows a hummingbird as it tries to escape various disasters through the lens of Andean legend, as well as Frank's own experience with California wildfires.
In other major awards news, friend of the show Benjamin Sokol has been awarded the inaugural Carlisle Floyd Prize, recognizing his talents as a promising young singer. Meanwhile, soprano Eleonora Burrato received the Marcella Poppe International Opera Award, and tenor Ben Bliss is the winner of the 2026 Beverly Sills Artist Award. Finally, winners have been announced for this year's Lotilenia competition. First prize of $25,000 went to mezzo-soprano Lila Crisp. Other finalists and prize winners include Claire Griffin, Ilana Starr, Matthew Dexter, and Eric Grendel, who won for Best Performance of an Opera or Operetta Selection, as well as the Audience Choice Award.
In trade news, after a year-long search, the Handel and Haydn Society has announced the appointment of Lekolian Washington Jr. as the company's next Philip and Marjorie Gerding president and CEO. The bassoonist and educator has a winning track record as executive director of the Community Music Center of Boston, which he steered to a 200% growth in net assets and led a capital campaign for CMCB's first permanent home.
On the disabled list, English soprano Felicity Lott has revealed that she has terminal cancer. Lott told BBC Radio 4 that she's known about her condition for a year. My goodness, it was a shock, but here I am for a bit longer. And I've had time to look back and think, golly, you lucky thing. You've met all these wonderful people and had a wonderful life.
Exit stage right mezzo-soprano Batia Godfrey Ben David has died at the age of 85. She trained as a singer at Juilliard before becoming a staple at the Metropolitan Opera, appearing in 595 performances between February 1969 and April 1988. She had a diverse repertoire from Flosshilde and Das Rheingold to Sister Matilda in Dialogues of the Carmelites to The Innkeeper in Boris Godunov. Ben David also appears on a number of Met recordings, including an Idomeneo with Pavarotti and a Parsifal with John Vickers.
Cape Town Opera has announced the death of 32-year-old South African soprano Kayakazi Madlala. In 2020, Madlala won the audience and Andrea Katzel prizes at the Voices of South Africa competition. She went on to sing roles at Johannesburg Theatre, Malmo Opera House, and the Royal Opera House.
And on this day, May 14th, in 1567, it was probably the birth of Italian composer Claudio Monteverdi in Cremona. We do know he was baptized for sure the following day. In 1574, Italian tenor Francesco Rassi was born in Arezzo. Speaking of Monteverdi, he premiered Orfeo in L'Orfeo and other great early operas from other composers. In 1652, composer Johann Philipp Forch, who wrote many operas, was born. Unfortunately, all of his operas are now lost. In 1851, German soprano Marie Lehmann was born. She performed in the first full Bayreuth Ring cycle as one of the Rhine Maidens. Her sister was Lili Lehmann. In 1885, German conductor and composer Otto Klemperer was born in Breslau. In 1917, American composer Lou Harrison was born in Portland, Oregon. 1925 saw the birth of American soprano Patrice Munsell. A happy birthday to Cuban-born American composer and conductor Tania Leon, who was born on this day in 1943. And in 1957, it was the birth of Italian soprano Daniela Dessi in Genoa.
On May 14th, other important things happened, like the first performance of Handel's opera Flavio at the Haymarket in London. 2 Gluck operas were premiered this day. In 1748, it was Semiramide Riconosciuta for the reopening of the Vienna Burgtheater, and Il Trionfo di Clelia, also in Vienna, in 1763. 1799 saw the first performance of Giacomo Ferrari's I Due Svizzeri in London. Also in London in 1845, it was Balfa's The Enchantress having its world premiere. In 1855, Fromental Alavi's Jaguarita Landian premiered in Paris. Adelina Patti made her Covent Garden debut as Amina in La Solammila in 1861. She was just 18 years old. Going back to Paris for the first performance of Massenet's Esclarmonde in 1889, and then in 1923, it was the first performance of Holz's opera The Perfect Fool at Covent Garden. In 1931, Arturo Toscanini refused to open his concert playing a fascist hymn and was then assaulted by an indignant fascist. That happened on this day in Bologna, Italy. In 1938, it was the debut of Jan Pearce as the Duke of Mantua in Philadelphia. In 1953, Stravinsky's The Rake's Progress had its American premiere at the Met, with Stravinsky conducting, and on this day, on May 14, 1993, it was the first performance of Philip Glass's Orphée at the American Repertory Theatre in Cambridge, Met.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
It's a little bit of one of the Marschallin arias from the first act of Der Rosenkavalier, from a very beautiful and beloved performance of this opera from Vienna in 1994, led by Carlos Kleiber, starring Felicity Lott as the Marshallin. I have been listening to Felicity a lot since I was in college. Didn't know exactly why when I was a college student I was so attracted to her voice. It's not a bel canto technique. It has a lot of, fluctuating vibrato speeds at different pitches, but there's something about the way her voice has this like kind of champagne, like kind of not like bright, fresh champagne, but sort of like older aged, like oxidated champagne quality to it that just was always so beautiful to me. And I love her, especially in French music. I love the way her voice sounds in French music, but she's also an incredible interpreter of song. And she could be hilarious if you listen to her Offenbach or her Merry Widow. But yeah, that Marshallin is like one of the perfect things for her voice and her tone quality. This is a gut punch, and we probably will be talking about her again soon.
Yeah, it's a really disappointing news, really sad news to hear. She managed to find a little bit of humor in that BBC interview where she made it kind of a joke or a quip, at least, where just a couple weeks before she found out, she was doing a concert to raise money for hospice care for people. And then she was like, oh, now I might need it. And she made a joke out of it, which is very, I think very English of her. But it also, like you said, it reflects the humor that she has as a performer. And, it's one that, it just feels really bad to hear. I hope that, the amount of time she has is still plenty. Hope springs eternal. And, she is English, stiff upper lip and all that. But hopefully we don't have to talk about her legacy for a little while yet. But yeah, bummer stuff. Also a bummer in a very different way is this whole Pavo Burkhalja, now I'm pronouncing it wrong, Burkhalja business with Georgia. So this whole mess, it's been hard to sort of parse what's going on in Georgia. Essentially, there was an election where the results have been called into question by various people. Burkhalja, in addition to being an operatic bass, is also a politician there, who I think, based on all the information that I have and understand about what's going on in Georgia, had a reasonable reaction to the chaos going on and calling on people to, stand up and fight for, democracy in Georgia. And now he and a number of other people who were protesting back in October have been sentenced. And this, I don't know how harsh of a sentence this is proportionately to Georgia, but certainly several years like that is not nothing. I don't know what sort of intervention it would require from, from the Royal Opera House in England to do anything about it. But I certainly hope if there is something to be done, something probably should be. We live in a time where the future of democracy kind of looks a little wishy-washy everywhere. And I think that this is not a great sign for that. And of course, the implications of, Georgia specifically not necessarily being a super democratic place, have implications for the rest of Europe as well. They're considered sort of a buffer zone between Western Europe and Russia. And we all know that Vladimir Putin's always doing something. So, yeah.
Well, just so the audience knows, Ashley Hargrave has not been arrested by the American government. She's actually in rehearsals for Chicago Symphony Orchestra's Poulenc Gloria with friend of the show Aaron Morley as the soprano soloist, and with co-host of the show Weston Williams giving the pre-concert talk.
Well, hopefully it doesn't get canceled like Lakmé.
I think Aaron Morley sang Lakmé, so that would have been a perfect seg there.
We were both aiming for a segue, and we both found one. So this whole thing about Lakmé is interesting, right? Because this is a fun fact about me. I've never actually seen Lakmé all the way through. Obviously, I've heard the duet 30,000 trillion times. I do not doubt that it portrays Hinduism in a very European colonialist light, so it's probably not great. I haven't seen it. I can't really say. What I can say is that when I saw this story happen, it set off a little alarm bell in my memory going back way before the pandemic, I think to about 2016 or 2017, when I first heard about this guy, Rajan Zed, and the Universal Society of Hinduism, because I'm not going to say that he's wrong about Lakmé necessarily, or about many of the things that he protests. But what I will say is that he does have a track record of being sort of a one-man show when it comes to these kinds of attempted cancellations. They don't usually work. I remember back in, I think, 2017, 2018-ish, you could go on his website and you could see that he copy-pasted the exact same protest statement over and over again regarding operas, ballets, yoga mats being sold at like sports stores and stuff like that over and over again. They always contain the same language, like many, many Hindu people were protesting. And when you kind of zoomed back and did the research, it seemed like it was mostly just him. He's kind of a mysterious person. There have been some criticisms, and again, this could be just, my research. There have been some criticisms of other people who are Hindi to saying that he doesn't necessarily speak for the whole movement, obviously. And some people have kind of also expressed a who is this guy kind of thing. I will say, looking at his website, he doesn't seem to be doing the copy paste thing as much anymore. He seems to be doing other things other than just attempting to cancel, operas that probably, as I said, probably do have pretty disrespectful interpretations of Hinduism in them. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of surprised this cancellation actually took place, because Rajan Zed does seem to be, I think at best a little bit of a sketchy person in the space. Now, all that being said, I am certainly not Hindu myself. I would be open to correction if we have any listeners who know more about this.
Send us a message at mailbag at
cancel me instead. Maybe we'll get Rajan Zed on the next show. How's your health, Oliver?
I think it's okay. I have a famously strong immune system, knock on wood. Ooh. I only got COVID twice.
And you're still standing.
Yeah, I don't get colds generally. And when I do feel sick, I usually can knock it out in 24 hours and I don't cry about it. I'm not one of those people that is woe is me when I'm sick, Yeah, to imagine, going to see La Bohème and watching Mimi cough all over everybody in that opera and probably coughing into her cuffietta, her bonnet, and then Rodolfo takes that bonnet and presses it up against his face. It's like, ugh, yeah, this is how you get COVID or the measles or both,
Yeah, once again, stressing the importance of vaccination, but also, raising a glass to the E&O program that is really helping. The reason we included this, we've known about the program for a while. We've been talking about it on and off for the past few years at this point, but this is, I think, the first really wide scale sort of study. And it's really exciting to see this level of success. So many people are improving their breathing, improving psychologically after the harms of long COVID too. I think, toy to all of them. I think it's...
Yeah, take that, Timothy Chalamet.
Let's wrap this show up.
Good call. Bad call. On Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. That's how we end the show. Not with bashing Timothy Chalamet for the 470 millionth time.
I love him, by the way. It's even though I'm mad at him, it doesn't mean I don't love him.
Is that your good call, Oliver?
No, both things can be true, No, my good call is for a friend of the show, Kimon Murat, who is about to embark on a European and American tour with one of my favorite groups, Les Talents Lyriques, performing a program called Handelian Heroes. There are various European stops, but in the U.S., they'll perform at the Frick in Manhattan on May 22nd and at LA Opera on May 24th. Catch it if you can.
And that is it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Get your voice heard and find links to stuff we've talked about at our website, operaboxscore.com. That's also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Send Oliver to Europe. Your announcer is Norm Woodell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is me. The executive producer of the OBS is George Cedarquist. For our guest, Patricia Racette, I'm Weston Williams, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you self-quarantine after hanging out with the boys in their Parisian garret. We're back with an all-new show next week when Robert Maya takes a free throw on Santa Fe Opera's upcoming season. Plus, you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more Sonderbardingen. Join us.